Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. Screw it, I need another bit of kava. We're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, here. But before we do the usual disclaimers, because it's football season, trigger warning, I'm going to curse, you're going to hear some football bitching, alright? Alright, so, as you know, it's been sales day hell for the last several days. So, I got an unexpected 8 hours of vacay I could take. So, I took it today so I could experience a real weekend. I'm trying to get night shift where I can get Saturday and Sunday off, which is a long shot, but, gotta try, right? Alright, to the football bitching, and then we'll get to the disclaimers. So I've been noticing something on the majority of the sports sites that are talking about Kansas City. And I'm going to tell you why it annoys me. Mahomes. Let me tell you something. Mahomes is not the problem. Nor should you be bidding all your hopes on him. As awesome as a player as he is, he's one guy. He's got 2 awesome receivers, granted. But it is absolutely obnoxious to continue this crap. Basically putting on his and their backs, whether they win or lose, entirely on him. Are we ignoring the massive elephant in the room here? Are we? Because me thinks we are. There is no one on this planet who is a football fan who can deny Mahomes, okay? He brought the long bomb back, something we haven't seen since the 90s, okay? He's not the problem here. His 2 receivers are not the problem here. The problem is our absolutely abysmal defense. If you were watching last year, you would have noticed that Tampa and, for the love of God, Cincinnati, let that sink into your skull. Cincinnati ran through our defense like it was Moses going through the Red Sea. Okay? You don't want to know the height of my embarrassment or just how hoarse I was on the phones that following Monday, right? Okay? It's ridiculous to put every win and every loss on one guy. Okay? And knowing for a fact that because you have one guy, and if he gets hurt, you know that game is going to be lost. This is not a win for KC. This is not a win at all. You can't do that. You're going to burn out Mahomes. You're going to burn out his receivers. Okay? You are putting entirely too much on this kid's shoulders. He can't be the make or break. You gotta fix the defense. Because the defense has been a byword and a joke since I was a kid. Alright? I don't know how many of you football fans were around in the early 2000s, but KC had one of its biggest hopes before we finally won the Super Bowl back in the early 2000s. Hold up your hands if you remember a little football star by the name of Priest Holmes. Okay? During this particular year, KC was undefeated. I remembered this because it felt like a fluke from God. Okay? Undefeated. We literally did a family photo where everybody had a long sleeve Kansas City Chiefs shirt on. Okay? That's how unprecedented that particular season was. Priest was out for a couple games. We lost the first playoff game after a flawless season. So what does that teach us? That you can't make or break your season off of a single player, because that can stop you. Okay? You want to have a decent season, you have to work on all your players. And absolutely most important of all, fix your defense. Okay? We shouldn't have Cincinnati. I'm still not over it, by the way, in case you can tell. Basically wipe the field with our defense the way that they did. Okay? Alright, I'm done with the football bitching. To the disclaimers. In the description box, you're going to find a link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much. They've threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Well, folks, NeuroClastic has refused, so you know the drill. Please read the article and share it on all your social media. Also included in there is NeuroClastic's public statement in regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding in case the JRC actually sees through with their threat. Good God, I'm not awake. Also included in there, the Ozarks' first article in regards to Agape Boarding School, also known as Stone for Help boarding school situation, a so-called Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that takes in so-called troubled male teens that has impending over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it, all which have been substantiated by the Missouri Department of Social Services, and they include the following: sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation, and that's just for starters. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another a doctor still on the premises with full access to the boys upon multiple, again, substantiated claims of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault of the boys there. You have an attorney general too busy chasing after drag queens and badly photoshopping them, as well as trying and failing to defund public libraries to actually do his job. You got a governor he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, okay? Send help. Read that article. Share it on all your social media. We got the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shots campaign, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, Jennifer Masumba's behavioral sheet of shockable offenses, a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, the templates, and the ever-present, self-explanatory, Change.org, Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, folks, please go ahead and use those headphones, alright? Trigger warning, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously parental supervision is very much advised. All right, now we're getting into the conclusions. I may have read some of this during the last video. If I have, please forgive me. I've slept since then, all right? Drink some of this tea here. It's good tea. I drink lots and lots of tea to make a pop culture reference. Although, as noted, the information provided by these... No, we've gone over the disclaimers of them trying to say, but hey. Yeah, screw your hey. Just saying. Alright, here we are. This is where we actually left off. Our exploration suggests that several imperatives regarding educational supports for the students with significant problem behaviors. First, the staff must be given supports necessary to allow them to persist when problem behaviors challenge their usual efforts. Gee. See, I was going through public school of the land of the dueling banjos. The way that it worked was the school referred my folks to professionals. My assessment was done. I was then put in contact with my regional office, which I later worked for, in which case they then planned for me community-based support. So that means they did not withdraw me from the school that I knew, but instead did community-based support. So there were certain days when I got off of school, I would be picked up by my CI, which is shorthand for community integrator, to work on the very specific things that were part of my treatment program. The efforts kind of speak for themselves. I honestly don't think I would have graduated, let alone with the GPA I did, without their assistance. Okay? Nor would I have developed even a halfway decent rapport with my aunt, because we butted heads, folks. We still butt heads. This is why I make contact a bare minimum. I love her, I do, but good God. Okay, I can only take so much condescension and high-handed, backhanded compliments. Okay? I don't deal with it well. My point is, community-based, without ripping your kid away from everything they know, particularly when your kid's autistic, is by far the better route to go. Because here's the facts, folks. Even when changes are needed for our betterment, we do not handle them well. When you go and drastically change everything on us, we're gonna react. It's not the good type of reactions either. If it's just small changes, we have what I like to call autistic fog brain. Let's just say it impedes functioning and impedes a whole lot of things that we have to do in order to maintain as close to normal life as humanly possible. Drastic changes like ripping you out of your school entirely, away from your parents, away from your home. You're thrown into a house full of strangers. You're put on a treatment program where if you act even somewhat within your neurology, you're going to be tortured for it. Yeah. And then people are surprised when they are taken off the treatment that they're worse than before. You think? You rip the kids from everything they've ever known. Okay? Everything they've ever known. You put them on this treatment program with no full functional behavioral assessment done, based off of nothing, based off of literally a punishment model. Do not come at me, JRC. Consequences, punishment, it's the same damn thing. Are you hurting the students because they're not acting normal? If the answer is yes, that is a punishment. I am so tired of people twisting words to meet whatever narrative that they say it does and completely destroying the whole meaning of the word. I mean, beyond done. Beyond done. Sorry. But let's move on, shall we? I'm going to get on a full-on rant and go off into ramble land and take a left turn. There were no reports by our families of efforts to bring in consultants or to involve parents in problem solving regarding their children's behaviors. That should be number one red flag. Parents, hear me on this. If a school suspects something is going on and they do not immediately come to you, but instead bring in their own so-called people, you need to put your foot down right there. Right there. Because your kid is your responsibility. These schools should not have the kind of power to be able to try to run all of this without informing you. That is your kid. Not their kid. Their job is to educate. That's it. You, the parent, are the one who's responsible for your child's physical and mental health. Your school's job, when they notice some problem behaviors, is to contact you and talk to you about it and maybe, if absolutely necessary, brainstorm some solutions. They don't just to go and run whatever the hell they want to. Okay? This is what really gets me. When they are just, God. It's a massive red flag to me, folks. That's all I'm saying. If your school is trying to do shit that has to do with their child, your child, and they are not contacting you to even so much as a courtesy fuck you. Not even a courtesy fuck you. Sorry about that, folks, but that's what it is. There's something really wrong there. Okay? Something really wrong there. Just saying. Second, the types of supports that were given to these students did not appear to meet the current standards of practice for individuals with challenging behaviors. Of course it doesn't! You know why it doesn't? Because these schools are not equipped. They do not have the experts. They do not have the money. They do not have the funding to bring in the folks necessary to do a full functional behavioral assessment. It's kamikaze freaking behavioral shenanigans, and I'm not talking the fun kind. It's throwing a bunch of random ideas they Googled off the internet to see if any of them stick. Okay? There's a reason why they don't work. It's because they're based off of nothing. If you don't know what a kid's triggers are, how are you supposed to be able to work with them on them? Find solutions to those triggers. You don't. You just throw a bunch of useless crap and pray it works. That's not how any of this should work. This is why it is important, teachers, that if you notice something, instead of just trying to Google it and throw things until it sticks and then complain when it doesn't and get them shipped off to another school, you need to get the parents involved so that the parents can go and take their kids to get the proper assessments done so the proper treatment programs and plans can be put into place, preferably community-based, and go from there. Jesus. Our parents did not report, nor did we see any records available to us of the use of FBA-driven interventions, including environmental manipulations, functional communication, environmental manipulations, functional communication training, or any other types of antecedent or educative approaches. Of course it isn't. These are teachers who feel like they have doctorates from Google. Okay? They're reading a whole bunch of material, probably from ABA. We all know how I feel about that. And hoping whatever they did will stick. And then they're shocked when it doesn't work. But the internet said. Don't get me started on the internet said, or we're going to be here for the next 5 or 6 years. I got a whole lot to say on that subject. This is why if the school notices something, they got to communicate with the parents. They can't just throw a whole bunch of stuff at the kid that they Googled and expect for it to work. Okay? If literally from the land of the dueling banjos school could wrap their brains around the concept that I was exhibiting things that troubled them, therefore it was in their best interests to get in contact with my folks. Why is it so hard for schools from supposedly progressive states like New York and Massachusetts to understand? I'm going to elaborate on this. I'm going to tell you what I think it is. I think it's ego. These are states that are celebrated for their intellectuals. You have teachers with multiple doctorates and master's degrees that teach in some of these schools. So they feel like they should be able to apply things that they usually research on Google. And because of their ego, now they feel that they are an expert. And when, shocker above shocker, it doesn't work, they go and whine to the board. Instead of taking a more humble approach, realizing that they are not experts in this field, and also realizing it's not their place to be going around the parents and trying to create their own treatment programs out of thin air. They need to come back down to earth a little bit. Realize that in spite of all their impressive degrees and letters behind their name, there are subjects that they are not the experts in. Reach out to the parents when they notice something is wrong and refer them to the appropriate professionals. Teachers, do not allow your ego. Oh, he's a good kitty, folks. Petting the cat behind my back here. You want to say hi real quick? He said no. No. Do not allow your egos to put those kids through hell. Because you want to believe with all the letters behind your name that if you Google some stuff and throw it at the kid, it's going to magically work. Alright? Because teachers, every time you do this, more kids get sent to hellscapes just like the JRC. They get sent to places like Agape, Tobin World. I've got a list. Would you like to see it? Take a step back and realize you are not an expert in this field. When you see issues with the kid, go and talk to the parents. Refer them to experts. Allow the experts and the circle of support that they help create around the kid make decisions in regards to treatment programs for the behaviors that have y'all so damn scared. It's not rocket science. You're not an expert in everything. Okay? Have a piece of humble pie. Quit trying to leave parents out of their own kids' medical treatment and education process. Allow the parents to go get the full functional behavioral assessment done so that their treatment can actually be based off of something. Dear God, that just reading this crap makes me feel a need for therapy. But let's kind of read it, the rest of this, shall we? It is our belief that with the commitment of the schools, better training to support individuals with severe problem behaviors, and willingness to bring additional supports to the student, the need for referring students to more restrictive placements, particularly those that utilize painful aversive interventions, will be greatly reduced. Okay, I got to stop you there, Freda. These schools, you're right, they're not equipped. And they're never going to be. You want to know why? None of these schools can afford the doctors and the experts necessary to create an actually effective treatment program. Now you're trying to put responsibilities on the school that shouldn't belong to the school. This is where lack of communication screws you, me, and everybody else who's neurodivergent. Okay? You can't make the schools do everything. That's not their job. Their responsibilities fall into the scope of educating us. For things that are not in their scope, such as mental and physical health and dealing with disabilities, they can only do that to a certain extent. But as far as going and getting your child a proper diagnosis, getting a full functional behavioral assessment done, getting a BIP put into place, that is the responsibility of the parents. But the parents cannot know to do these things if the school refuses to communicate with the parents. We've got a circle jerk of failure all around that's screwing you, me, and all the disabled kids stuck in the hells that are known as public schools. All right? Teachers, put down your egos, refer parents to the experts. Parents, if the teachers are not forthcoming when it comes to your kids' education, call them up. Email them. Email the principal. Because if my mom, who's far worse of a workaholic than you, me, I, and like everybody, can manage to bug my teachers until they started communicating with her regularly, you can find a way to make it work. With Miss, I work from 9 a.m. to midnight, 5 days a week. Can manage to make this happen. Okay? We can't put all the responsibility on the schools. This is not what they're built for. They do not have the budget, the connection to the experts, literally none of it, okay? Literally none of it. They have a special ed department. That special ed department can barely afford to pay that teacher just slightly above minimum wage. Okay? The responsibility shouldn't all be slung on the schools. It's unrealistic. On the other hand, we can't having schools thinking that they can run sack past the parents and keep throwing different little tidbits they get off of Google at a student and thinking it's going to magically work. We are lacking communication. Okay? That failure of communication between the school and the parents is sending a whole generation of kids down into the cracks. If we're lucky. Those who don't get sent off to places like the JRC. With no full functional behavioral assessment, just the JRC's bastardized version of one. No BIP in place. No nothing. Alright? I'm going to close on that. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. And as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye, everyone.